prank wars, Nathan. Ooh.
You are not my brother. I will never speak to you again. These were the words that my sister uttered to me after she fell for my little prank. Okay, maybe it wasn't so little, but first let's take a step back and start from the beginning. Growing up, my sister and I had a very combative relationship. Don't get me wrong, we shared unrequited love, but being raised by a tiger mom of the highest order, we grew up to be very competitive, perhaps too competitive. And as such, oftentimes when we were growing up, we got into fights and arguments on the most trivial of subjects. And on one such instance, we got into a debate on music theory. However, this debate quickly degenerated into a heated argument on who was better at piano and violin. And yes, we played both. We were Asian. Now, deep down inside, I knew that my sister was the superior musician. But being as competitive as I was unwilling to relinquish anything to my sister. And so in frustration, I started using ad hominem arguments. I used insult after insult, each one designed to take her ego down notch by notch so we can distract her from the argument at hand. And pretty soon, she had tears rolling down her face. So she ran up to her room and slammed the door shut. I had won. But had I really? I trotted back to my room to contemplate the consequences of my actions. And just as the regret began to crystallize, I heard a piercing scream reverberate through the entire house. So I sprint downstairs to see what's going on. What I see is my mother embracing my beloved sister, who is now sobbing and now covered head to toe with bruises, somehow. And as my mother comes to me and reprimands me, saying that she's going to ground me for the next half year, I will never forget looking to my sister and seeing the devilish smirk on her face. It was only later that I learned that those bruises were no accident. They were by design. The power of makeup, ladies and gentlemen. This trend continued for quite a while, prank going back and forth, each one escalating and topping the previous one, a never-ending battle of wit and ego. Finally, fast forward to freshman year of college, I decided enough was enough. I was tired of fighting battles. It was time to win the war once and for all. And so I devised a very intricate plan, and I fabricated a story involving myself, a girl I was sort of seeing, and her furious ex-boyfriend who was recently released from federal prison and was now sending me death threats. I fed this story to my sister bit by bit over the course of the next several weeks, making sure to act nervous and scared as hell. My plan was in motion. The seeds of chaos have been planted. As April 1st approached, I ramped up my preparations. I went on the internet and learned how to make blood packets, which I taped underneath my shirt. I got some blood capsules, which I put in my mouth. And then from the perspective of my webcam, I filmed my friend kicking down my door and stabbing me repeatedly with a knife that goes into the handle. During one part of the recording, I even collapsed onto the desk, bit down on the blood capsules, and with blood shooting out of my mouth, I screamed, "Sister, save me." I then fell limp to the floor while my friend repeatedly stabbed me and kicked me over and over and over. The video ended with him running out of the room, followed by a full minute of deafening silence. The preparations were complete. And finally, April 1st, the day of reckoning had come. And as usual, my sister and I hopped onto Skype for our monthly sibling video chat. For the first 45 minutes, I reiterated my fear. And once she took the bait, I switched the feed from my webcam to the pre-recorded video. It did not go well for my sister. As she watched her dear brother get murdered in cold blood, she screamed, and boy, did she scream. She screamed louder and shriller than I ever knew possible, sobbing and gasping with every breath. And finally, when she dialed 911, I knew that the prank had gone too far. I cut the prank too short, and I switched the feed back to my webcam. Surprise! She stared blankly back at me for what seemed like an eternity. and then rage ensued. I will not repeat to you the words she uttered to me that day, but if it gives you any indication as to how upset she was at me, know that she defriended me from Facebook and did not talk to me for over half of a year. And of course it felt terrible for the pain I caused her. Every April Fool's that rolled around, I wished that she would prank me back, so she can take some of the revenge she so rightfully deserved. But it never came, until 4 years later. My family and I had just got back from a vacation in China, and I had brought back with me a souvenir. A watch I got, a luxury one, albeit a counterfeit one from the black market. A few months after we got back, I received a letter from the U.S. Customs Border Protection Agency. The letter informed me that I was being fined an obscene amount of money, and that I faced the possibility of jail time. And if I wanted any possibility of exonerating myself, I would have to go to court and defend myself. I had no choice. So on the day of the trial, I suited up, went to the courthouse armed with an alibi involving my grandfather, my beloved grandfather who recently passed away and gave me his watch before he died. And as I'm marching up the courthouse steps, I received a call from my sister. So how goes the trial, she asks. How do you know about the trial? That's when she revealed to me her master plan. Everything from writing the letter in law speak to forging the agency's seal. I wasn't even mad. In fact, I was happy that she still had that indomitable spirit within her to fight back and take what's hers. I considered letting the prank wars end right then and there, letting her have the last laugh. After all, my last prank emotionally scarred my sister for years. She's probably still scarred right now, actually. And jeopardized our entire relationship. I didn't want to run that risk again by escalating further. But if I were to stop there, my sister never really won, did she? And who am I to look down upon my sister and give her a token of pity? No, the prank wars will not end there. And only the future will tell how I shall strike back. Madam Toastmaster.